Living in Australia is expensive. Let's talk about the cost of living here and what I spend in a month. So if you're someone looking to move to Australia as a student or a professional, then this video will help you plan your finances ahead of time. I'm Samanvay, a data scientist living in Sydney, Australia. In this video, I'll talk mostly about the cost of living in Sydney, but the cost of living will be very similar in other cities, except for the rent price, which varies quite a lot. But Sydney tends to be the most expensive as far as Australia is concerned, so at least I'll talk about the higher limits here. So these are my 7 cost categories. All of them will be timestamped in the description below, so feel free to skip around based on which category interests you the most. First up, let's talk about rent. This is easily my biggest expenditure in a given month, and it's most likely going to be the same case for you. So currently I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in the inner west of Sydney, and I spend around $1,500 per month, which equates to around $345 weekly. So the inner west of Sydney is around 15 minutes away from the city. So the closer to the city you are, the more expensive your rent is. I currently don't have a car park, but if you did, then it's easily $30 to $50 extra per week for a car park. So I'd easily be paying around $400 per week. My apartment's a little bit old, but if you wanted a more modern place, then be prepared to pay at least $400 to $450 for a 1-bedroom apartment. You can reduce your rent by moving further away from the city or by flat sharing, but don't expect to pay any less than $200 or $250 per week. For students, there's also student accommodation available near your university, but these can easily be anywhere from $500 to $600 per week. So it's way more expensive than living in your own accommodation, flat sharing, or on your own. So make sure to do your research when you opt for student accommodations. In terms of utilities, I spend mainly on electricity, phone, and internet. I know some places actually have it included in their rent, but that's not the case here. Typically, I'd spend anywhere from $200 to $300 per quarter, and it tends to be $300 in winter months when I've got my heater on. Otherwise, it's $200. So on average, I'll be paying around $80 per month on electricity. I don't have to pay the water bill because that's typically taken care by the landlord, and that's always been the case whenever I've rented an apartment. For the internet, I have an NBN plan which gives me unlimited internet with a speed of 50 Mbps, and that costs around $70 a month. In terms of my phone bill, I have a $30 monthly plan on my mobile phone. I typically tend to buy my phones outright, which tends to be more economical than opting for one of those phone contracts which has a phone included as well as a SIM plan. So my total utilities bill comes down to $180 per month. Next is groceries. I typically spend around $100 per week on groceries. This is a little bit on the higher side because given that I'm a vegetarian, I tend to spend a little bit extra on grains like chia seeds, hemp seeds, or quinoa, which usually tend to be more expensive than the usual staples like rice. For me, health is a massive priority, so I don't really mind spending a little bit extra per week. Currently, my grocery spending per month is around $400. If you're not a massive fan of cooking, there's also meal services around where you can have a subscription to deliver ready-made meals right to your doorstep. But be warned, these are going to be way more expensive than buying your own groceries. So next category is insurance, and I'm mainly talking about health insurance. So if you're an international student thinking of coming to Australia, you'll be required to get an overseas student health cover, and these can cost you anywhere from $30 to $50 a month. So be sure to search up your options when you're looking to move here. And if you're a professional looking to move to Australia, you'll have to get a private health cover, which can cost you anywhere from $50 a month to $150 a month. Currently, I pay around $110 for my health cover, and the price fluctuates based on how many extras you want on top of your basic cover. So example of extras could be physiotherapy cover or optical cover. The next category is transport. Currently, I don't own a car, so I prefer to use public transport like buses or trains. And pre-COVID, when I was commuting to work every day, I'd spend around $40 a week just on my Opal card. But since pandemic, I'm working on a hybrid schedule, so I'll only go to the office a couple of times a week. So effectively, my transport cost is around half of what it used to be, which is around $20 a week, which equates to around $80 a month that I'm spending money on transport. So that pretty much covers most of the essential spends. Now there's a little bit more of the discretionary spending that I do on a monthly basis. So a big one for me is eating out. So an average meal at a decent restaurant will set you back around $20 to $25 a meal. So I usually budget for about 2 of those a week, which is around $200 a month. And that's just not for eating out. I've also included the cost of coffees and snacks here and there. So last category is miscellaneous spend. So I spend around $70 a month on my gym membership, as well as $50 for random expenses such as birthday gifts or movie tickets. So that equates to around $120 in miscellaneous spend. So summing up all of the costs across the category, my total ends up being $2,590. So hope that gives you a general idea as to the cost of living in Australia. If you enjoyed the video, then smash that like button and I'll see you next time.